Hello, this is Diné, your time management expert, and in this video I wanted to talk about setting boundaries and how not setting boundaries can hinder your success when it comes to time management. So boundaries, they are a key factor when it comes to managing your time and staying focused and prioritizing your task, and mainly just maintaining a work-life balance. When you don't set boundaries around what you want for yourself and how you plan to have your day run, then you're setting yourself up for feelings of being overwhelmed and feeling depleted because you're giving the majority of your time to someone else instead of yourself. And this is not to say it's about being strict with others, because some of us, we have this misconception that we need others to do that, or we need our space to look like this. And what it really boils down to is us setting boundaries with ourselves, because in the end, we can only manage ourselves and everything else will fall into place. Setting boundaries for time management keeps you on course, so at the end of the day, you feel accomplished and you feel like you spent your day the right way. In this video, I'm going to outline some signs that show up in people who are having difficulty setting boundaries and show you how this impacts your time management skills. A prerequisite to manage your time is to know what things or tasks you'd like to do. What's important for you to get done, or what do you want to see on your to-do list, and then create that schedule. This, however, would be challenging if you're not aware of what's important to you. It'll be hard for you to decide what even should be on your to-do list, what should be on your schedule that reflects the task that you need or want for yourself. Setting boundaries involve creating limits between what's right for you versus what's for other people. Self-awareness is important in deciding what you need to do for yourself and how you want to spend your time. And it'll allow you to be able to communicate that back to others, so that way you can honor what it is that you need for yourself. Not being clear about one's own needs and priorities can make it hard for you to establish boundaries and set clear goals. Usually what's on your list is part of a bigger goal that you want to accomplish for yourself. And that's whether you're making sure that you're spending some daily quality time with your child in order to cultivate a better relationship or to set examples, or if one of your goals is job related, doing some task that is part of a bigger project for work, or organizing things at home so you can have a better environment. Whatever it is, make sure that the goals that you are setting are clear and specific and not general. So that way you can keep tabs that the task that you're setting is aligned with what your specific goal is, and that you're actually heading in the right direction when it comes to setting up the tasks that are specific for you. If you're uncertain about what you want for yourself, then you will not even have a goal to set boundaries around that are specific for you. You won't be sure what you need in order to prioritize or know what you should say yes or no to. And setting clear goals is an important time management skill. Some individuals struggle with assertiveness, finding it challenging to communicate and enforce their boundaries. Learning to say no becomes the problem, because we lack being assertive. It's as if there's something squeezing the neck from getting the N-O word out loud. And it could be that we were taught this growing up in an honor culture: honor your elders, consider what other people might say, in an attempt to cultivate you just being polite, a polite person. But for some, we don't know how to discern whether to say yes and when to say no. Even as adults, some of us are still thinking like this. And it's not to say don't be polite because you're an adult now, but the habit is so ingrained that we find it challenging to set boundaries. Understanding whether you should be doing something because you feel like you should for that person versus when you want to do something. Setting boundaries involve being able to assess when to say yes and when to say no, and holding yourself to that decision. And yes, there are some people who just don't take no for an answer, making it more challenging for you. So I suggest you be preemptive. Make a plan on how you'll say no when you're interacting with those type of people. Some individuals feel insecure about asserting their needs, feeling that others may not respect or value their boundaries. So even making use of some of those time management methods that are so helpful, one like time blocking, could be a challenge if you're insecure about asserting your needs to set boundaries. Insecure that the relationship may crumble because you're stating that you need that block of time for yourself to get things done. Fearful that your boundaries are not going to be valued or respected. And of course, if you're insecure in the relationship, then you're not going to walk the boat, because God forbid that you test the relationship for your own needs. And of course, at a conscious level, you know that these tasks needs to get done, but you default to your subconscious behavior of putting others first due to your insecurity, which you may not even be aware of because it's so encouraged by the individuals who are benefiting from you. And you think that you're feeling happy and secure in the relationship by not speaking up and keeping the peace. And I guess that's a secondary gain, but it's not going to get you where you want to be and get your time managed the way that you'd like it to be. We may wind up trying to do everything because we're trying to avoid confrontation at all costs. So we'll multitask, we'll be doing things when we're already doing something. And this doesn't help us with our focus and concentration, since we can only consciously focus on one thing at a time. So taking some time to fully concentrate on a task, one task at a time, limiting multitasking so we can get that high quality work. It won't even be an option if you're trying to avoid confrontation. So again, you won't be setting any boundaries because you don't want to create any sort of conflict, even if it means sacrificing your own needs and desire to produce quality work. Avoiding confrontation may hinder you from delegating tasks because you feel uncomfortable confronting the person about their performance or what they had agreed to do. For some, there's a real fear of conflict, and it's the fear that's keeping you imprisoned, meaning the perceived consequence and not the consequence itself. Because we don't know what the consequence is, but the feelings that are associated with the fear, that freezes us from moving forward. So doing something like establishing your work hours, which can help you maintain that work-life balance, which is important for you to be present, and that's whether you're working to be present personally or professionally. But regarding the work hours, being able to set boundaries around blending your family time with your professional time. So are you okay with having a business call during vacation time or during your family time? But if you have that fear of conflict, you'll find yourself avoiding setting boundaries around that time because perhaps you fear the conflict and the attempt to avoid hearing what the other person's response may be. In most cases, it may not even be as bad as you expect, but with fears, we are constantly thinking the worst and expecting the worst, which may prevent us from, in this case, having conflict in order to maintain harmony at all costs. Along those lines is the fear of disapproval. And if this is something that you struggle with, you're going to find that you're having a hard time communicating boundaries for availabilities. So this may be challenging if you fear not being approved of. And you may feel the need to say yes and jump at every opportunity to be a part of some activity or event because you won't be included the next time, or maybe you feel like you're going to hurt someone's feelings, or they may not approve of your decision not to join. And so you'll tend to struggle setting boundaries around your availability and communicating your boundaries for your availability. Always being available becomes safe, and it becomes more important than the time that you need to set for yourself. You can't plan effectively if you have a natural inclination to please others, because it's as if your time is not even your own. It'll be challenging for you to hold yourself accountable to commitments. And this is not just commitments that you make with other people, but it's commitments that you make for yourself and your well-being, because you're constantly trying to please everyone else and accommodate their schedule, instead of your own. There is a misconception that setting boundaries is selfish, when in reality it's essential for self-care. So creating a dedicated workspace, it does have an impact on how productive you are. An uncluttered workspace is known to improve productivity, efficiency, and get more accomplished. For some, they feel uncomfortable requesting their own workspace because it seems selfish to set boundaries for their space, when in reality it's essential to their performance. Having your own workspace, it can cue your mind that it's time to work instead of working at your kitchen table, wondering, why do I feel like I need a snack every 10 minutes? As moms, some of us tend to feel guilty prioritizing anything else besides our children 24/7, even when the child is well cared for in our absence. But prioritizing is one of the main things, one of the main skills in time management, which involves knowing what's important and should be given most attention. So deciding on what should be worked on first and setting some order of importance around that. Allowing our kids to come bother us with non-important issues when we're focused on an important task is not setting boundaries. It will cause us to continually lose focus, creating frustration and stress when our minds are constantly shifting from one thing to the next. It will interfere with us getting our work done and meeting our deadline. Setting realistic goals is a problem for those who are in the habit of overcommitting themselves. They take on more than they can handle, and it's not that they consciously do this, but actually becomes a habit, which once in that cycle is very difficult to break. So your intention is to finish something in a specific amount of time, and from the time that you start it till the time that you end, a few things might have popped in unexpectedly outside of your control. And it just seems that setting realistic goals is something that you can't attain. As a result, you may wind up rushing because you didn't give yourself enough time. And in the end, you're the one that's suffering due to overcommitment and stress, not to mention what the quality of your work must look like. In some cases, it's their societal and cultural norms that may influence individuals to prioritize the needs of others over their own. Some get caught up by watching how everyone else is using technology, and it may influence whether they use technology wisely themselves. And this could be a problem if you're unable to set boundaries around how you should be using your technical resources. We could get caught up using it in ways that is not really productive for us. You may feel the need and think you're expected to respond right away or up to date on everything that's going on in the news, and you fall into the social norms of using technology instead of setting boundaries around how technology works for you. Setting a boundary with technology by making sure that you're not going online just before going to bed, that could be useful when you know that it directly affects you falling asleep right away, or turning off notifications so you can focus on an important task is also a good way to set boundary. For me personally, if I'm with my immediate family spending quality time, there's no need for me to turn my phone on because I turn it on when I need to make a phone call. It's not for other people's convenience to reach me whenever and wherever I am for their benefit. There's a time for me to talk on the phone, and there's times that I turn it off because I'm spending quality time with family or because I need to focus in on an assignment. And I can't make myself available because someone may need me, or else I'm not setting that boundary for myself. Growing up without healthy boundary setting role models can make it challenging to develop that skill. Learning to disconnect can open up time for you to create that space, allowing you to diversify activities with hobbies that stimulate creativity and problem solving, or perhaps just create that space for self-reflection and personal development. If you grew up with no role models showing you how to set healthy boundaries with regards to disconnecting, this may not even feel like a thing because everywhere you go and everyone you meet seems to be around technology and tuned in all the time. It doesn't seem normal to disconnect. If you grew up with your caregiver always on the phone, attending to someone else's need, it may seem like you should also be connected because that's what you grew up seeing. But I'm sure you know that you can get more done in less time without the distractions. Some of us think that we need to do everything perfect, and we create these high standards for ourselves, overworking due to perfectionism, which makes it difficult to set boundaries that are realistic, constantly disappointing ourselves because we're trying to overaccomplish, being hard on yourself for mistakes as if we are not humans, not allowing yourself to take breaks, which is necessary for reducing stress and feelings of being overwhelmed, and creating that mind reset that we need, so that when we sit back down to work from a break, we're approaching it with a fresh start. But if we're not setting boundaries with ourselves to take those breaks, then we can run ourselves into the ground. Reflecting and adjusting happens when you take the time to do so instead of just going nonstop. The pressure to excel comes into play when you feel you need to be the one doing everything to make sure that it's 100% done the way that you need it to be. Your mindset is to take on tasks that doesn't necessarily need to be done by you, or take on more responsibility so you can continually look busy, or feel the need to micromanage when you do delegate. For some, it makes them seem more important that they can do it all, when in fact it's a lack of setting boundaries for themselves to take that time to reflect and adjust. And this time is needed so you can reflect on how things have been going. You can adjust and make the decisions on what needs to change, what's working well, see what needs to be eliminated. But again, if we're not putting boundaries and are taking on more responsibilities unnecessarily, or doing additional tasks that someone else could be doing instead of saying no, there will be no time for us to reflect and make the necessary adjustment, which is a time management skill that should be done regularly. Taking a pause instead of just going nonstop gives you time to reflect and adjust and plan ahead, as well as anticipate potential challenges. This pressure to excel can put you in a position of excess work overload and cause exhaustion. Remember, you only have control over your time, no one else's. So if you give that up or turn that over to someone else, then where does that leave you? We each get one person to look after through this entire lifespan, which is yourself and your well-being. And how you play that out is expressed in your actions and how you manage your time. Setting boundaries is your right, and it's a basic human need. Overcoming these challenges often involves self-reflection, building self-confidence, and learning effective communication skills. It's worth starting the process to develop and reinforce healthy boundary setting habits, if this is something that you struggle with. As an expert who specializes in working with the subconscious mind, I have seen and experienced for myself the power of tapping into the subconscious to find the underlying reason behind your unwanted behaviors, then doing the reprogramming work to create new behaviors in a short amount of time. Although it may seem impossible, it's not. I hope you find this helpful. Thanks for watching, and until next time, goodbye.